welcome everybody to Gardens the Untold Story. We're talking from seed to plate, and Andy's bouncing in. Guys, that's Andy's music, so you got to check him out on SoundCloud under the Invisible Gardener. He's got some absolutely amazing music in there, guys. But
Have you heard any?
Andy,
Have you heard any of the latest stuff I did? Have you? You're following, right?
yeah, I'm following you. I haven't actually went over there for probably a week and a half
Oh
or
no, no,
so.
you're missing something.
Okay.
Every day is some really a new breakthrough in the music category thing. So and it's really cool. I really enjoy it. But today, we're doing uh, basically. I think we wrote down from seed to plate, growing your own organic food.
Yep.
I came up with that's my idea from seed to plate. And
It's
hi
got
guys. Oh, I have to move over to the comment section over here so I can see it. Hey, there's Diggity and Scotty. I
yeah.
bet you all these guys have their own garden in the back.
Good,
Hey,
good.
Scotty, I
Oh
bet
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. You know Scotty? I bet she has a garden growing in the back.
Yeah. And there's Shadow. Hello, brother.
And Shadow too. I bet you Shadow has an outrageous garden.
Well, and they're here to learn from a professional gardener, an arborist that's been doing this since the 70s and has amazing results in the gardens that you are working with in Malibu. Now, from seed to plate, we're not talking about an arborist. We're not talking trees. We're talking more food. But are we talking a food forest? Is that what we're talking about, Andy, Mr. Andy Lopez?
A food forest. That's interesting. It's a weird concept depending upon who you talk to. What is your idea of a food forest?
I think basically in my reality, a food forest would be you can consume pretty much any plant that's in your garden, whether it's a leaf, a fruit, a vegetable, uh, nut trees, fruit trees, anything like that, even the flowers that you can eat. That to me would be a food forest.
Eat everything you can see, right? But that's a little weird because a lot of times you can only eat certain things on a plant. And you really can't eat a whole plant sometimes, most of the time, generally speaking, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
so food forest, I guess a food forest means plenty of food everywhere.
Okay.
You have to have some basic idea of whether you eat the leaf, the flower, or what part of the plant you eat, because they're all different. That's
Yeah.
always the trick in growing. And it's really more like growing how Mother Nature grows. Because one of the problems I've always had, I mean, a friend of mine gave me this book, Square Foot Gardening, right?
Okay.
Square Foot Gardening, which it's a really cool idea. In a certain sense, you have a certain spacing, basically idea. You run little lines, little strings. You have this little block. So you block
Yeah.
them out. You block them out, and usually 1 foot, 1 square foot, and in there is where you grow a specific plant. You actually grow, and but being an aquarian nature, and also Mother Nature does nothing in a straight line like that. Find me some
Yep.
way that it normally happens, and that's interesting. So for me, the idea is still there in terms of growing a lot of food in the same space.
Yeah.
Because there's things you can grow above ground that also will do well with things growing below ground. I enjoy doing you learn how to do that because many different things inhabit different spaces. So some things have the fruit above ground, the other things have you eat the roots.
Yeah.
They can't both be growing in the same area. And my there are some things that we all should already know in terms of this is not a class on how to prepare your soil, right? This is not a class on how to build a raised bed because there are many different kinds of raised bed, many different kinds of way of growing into the ground. Because I've been doing this for so long. As a matter of fact, the place I'm moving to now, it's like black. There was a fake lawn on there. I told him, take the fake lawn out, and sure enough, there's just nothing there. It looks like there was a little road that came out behind the house. It looks flat. It looks like there's concrete there, or the soil has rather become very hard. So I'm looking at different ways of turning it into a beautiful vegetable garden with flowers and whatever else. And so,
Cool.
and I'm going to be taping it too. So maybe throughout the history of the garden, whatever, I'll show up here and we'll say, look what's going on today. Because I want to do more of that. What I do out there. Only problem I'm having now is that my iPhone, which I shoot my videos and everything, I have billions and
Mhm.
trillions and trillions of videos and images of work of different things going on, different gardens I have built. They don't. It does not talk to my PC, which I'm on now. I try
Yeah.
to tell them that how can I move it from there to here, and it's like holy cow, and so I finally got iCloud to work a little bit, but it still doesn't seem to get everything across. I have to figure it out. So, but I want to show. So this particular area that I'm doing, I have so many different ideas as to how I want to make it manifest. Uh, but it all comes down to I really radically going to have to change the environment here. I'm going to go raise
Yeah.
beds. I'm going to build some kind of raised beds. Okay. The
Okay.
basic law is if you can't go down, you go up.
Mm-hmm.
Right, right. So I'm not going to be able to go down too far, maybe a foot or two if I'm lucky. Normally, the last time I did a raised bed, no, not the last time, but a long, long time ago, I did a raised bed for the tree people. You've heard of the tree people here in LA. It's called the Tree People. And
Okay.
nonprofit, they plant a billion trees everywhere. And so I
Mm-hmm.
volunteered for them one year, a couple of years, and then I did. I said we need some raised beds here, and I dug a hole. I'm 6'5". I would stand in it, and my head would disappear. That's how. So it'd be at least 6 feet down. I went down. Okay. I know actually
Right.
why I did, but why I did that. Normally, you run into something that tells you to stop. I can't go any further, right? You're okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's as far as I can go. But this thing was like really loose, sandy soil. So I dug it out. And this was right after the earthquake, and there was plenty of rocks and stones and all kinds of things that could be used. So I got a whole bunch of rocks, and I put a layer of rocks on the bottom, and hit the walls, and put the rocks up and on the sides of the wall. Just patted them all in there. I did another bed. I made it out of glass bottles. This guy had a billion zillion bottles of wine that were emptied, and the source
Mm-hmm.
of it. And so I made the bottom. I pounded flipped them over to the nose and put them in the ground. So I did a bottom of it, and then I stood them all up together, so that they would fit on the wall. And,
Okay.
and as I went up, I was adding soil to it. So by the time it came up to level, it was and the bottles would come up out of the ground. The heads would stick up out of the ground, and I would
Right.
put water in it. But the wind would blow over. You hear the wind that make the
The
bottles make
whistle.
noise.
Yeah.
And then what I did that on purpose. I like the glass one because at night they're warmer. So during the day it collects the heat. At night it radiates the heat out, so it keeps the raised beds warmer at night, which is also very good. So
Now, Andy, I have to stop you here. Now, you
okay,
dug down into the ground.
yeah,
A raised bed comes up from the ground.
right, right.
So you're making a pit and calling it a raised bed. I'm confused.
Well, it's a raised bed because it sticks up off the ground. But the problem when you do a raised bed, just say you have a raised bed, most of them do like 16-inch raised bed, right? They put it off the ground,
Right.
maybe 24 inches like that off the ground. Lay it down on the ground. They put something down on it. If you're organic, you may put cardboard, you dig it out, but you don't go down. You just lay it down. You put wine, and you have your raised bed. There's a
Right.
problem.
Yeah.
There's a problem with that.
Okay.
And that's why you want to go down because root systems go down. The root system of a simple lettuce plant goes down 6 feet.
Yeah.
So most vegetables, you name the vegetables, will have massive roots that will go down very, very deep. And that's what you want. You want to have how you say more roots in the ground? Well, you want to
More
have
roots in the
more.
soil.
You
Yeah.
want to have more of the roots, a space for the roots to grow to be in the ground. That's
So basically, you're fluffing up what's deeper down
Yeah.
to make it easier for the roots to migrate
Right,
down
right.
and
You
through.
take
Okay, that makes sense.
take
Okay,
everything out, take everything out, put it blend it with the compost and other there you learn how to make a mix of things you want to put back into the ground. So compost is one of them. The natural soil that you have there, that's the other one of them. You want to have some source of minerals. You want to try to duplicate a place. You want to add carbon, some source of carbon to it. There are lots of things, ways that you can incorporate it in a very gentle way, like even worms. You want to maybe even make it so that the worms can survive down in there.
that'd be nice. Yeah, we
Yeah,
need
you
those.
just let the worms grow down there. I've always done that in my raised beds. I just tell people you can't go dig it. You have to use your finger because there are worms there. When I first started, I just shovel. I would cut the worms in half. I go, oh boy. You can tell, there's this worm in shock going, I thought you loved me. And you just cut my body off. I don't know if they regenerate, but I think they die. Some worms do, right? Some worms
Yeah,
split.
some worms I believe do regenerate
No, well, these
the
worms
head
die.
section.
But these worms die when they get cut in half.
Yeah,
I guess that's not the kind of worm.
yeah,
But
I'm not 100% sure on that. So, but I that's what I've always been taught is you can cut a worm in half and it'll survive. So, but I'm not
that's the reason.
100%.
That's the reason to dig down is to really get. You very rarely get down in there. So once you do that, you're never going to do it again, probably in a long, long time. So they should
Yeah,
you made a nice area for things to grow down there. Things will start to decompose. So you'll constantly be adding things into your garden because it'll settle down, settle down. Maybe in 5 to 10 years, you may want to dig it out and have some kind of amazing compost down there because you can always take that and transplant it to other parts of of your garden. What I do for my customers, like what I'm going to be doing here, is once I get growing, get the worm farm going and the compost going, I actually will have little batches of special compost that I'm going to make that I'm going to
mhm,
transplant onto the property. I find a space on the person's property, which I already know of. I usually mark them right off the bay right off the way where the biology is most active on that person's
yeah,
property.
yeah,
And usually you find it's a very mellow environment, not on the bright, hot sun getting baked, not totally in the dark where even though it's not nothing to do with light, but it has to do with being in a nice, friendly environment that the microbes will then endure year round.
right,
Right.
yeah,
So there's several places that I think of offhand when I go to a customer's place, and actually when I go to a customer's place, I'm always looking and going, okay, where is it that's most active here? What is going on here? And there's some of them there's totally nothing, no place at all. So then you have to say, okay, we have to create a place, a space where they can
hmm,
grow, right? And that's one of the advantages of doing a worm farm because a worm farm is one of the keys to having to growing your own food. And the
hmm,
reason for that is the microbes is the excellent source of microbes that you can constantly be giving your garden because that's one of the reasons why another reason why I do the raised bed into the ground because if you look at it, it's a big giant container that's in the ground.
yeah,
So it has a specific little environment with the rocks and everything in that space that the biology will grow. It also has a source of you want to provide you want to have a whole property filtration system that will filter out the water, chemicals in the water because that's constantly ruin your vegetable garden, ruin your soil, which in turn will ruin your food. See, so you want to have an environment which has to be built in the right location. Your garden should be in a place where you get sun, right? The
right,
more sun, the better. And ideally, it doesn't have to be made out of rocks, but it could be made out of whatever local things you have.
hmm,
There are lots of different ways you can do that. I like the rocks because the microbes like rocks. So
yeah.
you can get the different kinds of rocks that you can build with, you have a better chance of the microbes establishing themselves, right?
So you like using rock walls, building your own rock walls for a raised bed?
Right. No, and
Okay,
not using any kind of motor or any kind of plaster or anything like that. It's just putting them together.
right,
As a matter of fact, I like clay. So clay is one of my favorite ones to use. I think the biology does fine with clay. As a matter of fact, they like clay.
Yeah.
They live in clay a lot faster than they would on the rocks. They will inhabit the clay. You can actually take the piece of clay and move it to another place. And, if the other place that you're going to move them to, you set it up a little bit, they will survive. See, what I do is I call them tree vents. So these
Hmm.
are so tree vents is I name them tree vents because they actually um, do what they say. Is they vent the trees,
Okay.
right? And they're actually clay drain pipes, and the clay is the key to it because the clay is paramagnetic.
Hmm.
So one of the things that you want to do with your you want to learn and you're growing your we're talking about vegetable, but all fruit is the energy that you're going to be exposing them to. And one of
Hmm.
the ways that Mother Nature makes for healthy food in terms of trace minerals, because that's what you really want to do. You want everything that you're eating, you want to have it a blend source of all the trace minerals. The idea you're going to eat it, you're going to get your trace minerals, not
Yeah.
just from one plant, but from a variety of different things that you're eating. You
Hmm.
have this really cool environment that's providing you with all the different trace minerals, various different plants, different ways of eating.
Yeah.
Right? Right? And so once you establish that cycle, you one of the things you have to always do too is you have to really create your own soil that's going into this environment. You have to create, and you have to create it from your environment, from your local environment. You want to get the biology that you're getting from the grass that you have, from
Yeah.
the flowers that you have, from the trees that you're growing, the leaves that's on your property. And
Yeah.
that's what you want to learn. That's where you get a shredder. You learn how to work with that, and then you can take one step further too. Because what I did in Florida is I would always drive around the countryside, and I would get animal stuff, fufu and chicken, whatever, from the local environment, which is still kind of my local biology.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's still part of this little geographical local biology.
Your terroir, as they call it.
My terroir, what is that?
Yeah. Terroir, that's your local environment, is your territory, your environment. They call it terroir.
Right. So you don't have to go really super far, but if you have a farmer or some kind of farm or a giant or
Hmm.
another person gardening anywhere in your area, I would love to get some of that biology into my place.
Yeah.
You see, right? So that's what one of the things that you want to key into, and people don't understand that, but compost, especially if it's made by somebody else, it's such a cool idea because and you understand what I just finished saying. You're basically getting the biology from that guy's place, and you're bringing it over to your place.
If he's making good compost,
Right.
proper
Well, that's the
compost.
whole key to it. Otherwise, it's crap. But
Yeah.
that's the whole key to it. Exactly right.
That's why
That,
we say use a microscope, take a look, and then you know if it's good or it's bad.
well, how would you know it? Because it'd be active or nothing.
Yes. If it's
Right.
not active, there's no biology, there's no life in it, it's garbage. If there's, it's abundantly full of life, and obviously so, that's good compost.
So when I started doing that, when I would see, I never I didn't I wasn't really lucky to start making compost initially, so I had to buy compost from other people when I first started doing this. When I was a youngin, I would try to learn of the compost that people made, and there wasn't any. I had no idea how you can tell, but I actually did because I grew up in Cuba and Puerto Rico, and they made compost, and
Hmm.
there's a very really cool simple way that you can tell if it's any of the biology is in the compost.
And how's that?
Well, a tablespoon of the biology in a glass of clean water that's just been sitting out there for a while. You stir it up and you leave it alone for a while, and you can smell.
Okay. And
The
if it
biology is
smells,
active. If the biology is active, it'll start to change on you really, really, really fast. The next thing you know, within 24 hours, you have a completely different creature in that little cup of water there.
and now is it supposed to smell sweet or like a forest floor? What's it
It
supposed to
all
smell like?
depends on what goes into making the compost. It all depends on what goes into making the compost. That's why it's very different. I remember it being different in Puerto Rico and Cuba and in Miami because the
Yeah.
different things. So in Cuba, Puerto Rico and Cuba, you had a lot of vegetables, right? You had a lot of different animal parts. You see, as opposed to in Miami, you had or here, for a matter of fact, people making compost, there's hardly any animal manure or any of the blend of these things that would normally be in a different in an environment that was more tropical with more animals. I mean,
Yeah.
in Costa Rica, when I lived on a farm there, it was like horse, sheep, llama, rabbit, dog. You know, you name all the different kinds of animals that are running around. The pig, you know, they're running around
Yeah.
the place, and they make the compost, and that goes into their compost making process. Over
Yeah.
here, when I make when I'm gonna start making compost here, the other, you know, I could drive around the countryside and probably come up with a variety of animal manure, but the city will come down to you right away. You're making this is a manure product. It could cause problems. So I'm gonna maybe make it in bins. But what I'm going to do is I located when I first came into to Malibu. The first thing I did was drive around the countryside and looked at the ads, and so I found this really cool llama farm. The guy makes $150,000 for show and tell per llama. So
Oh, Jesus.
he has a llama farm. Llamas running around, alpacas, all kinds of other creatures, goats, and they take the manure and they throw away out back. They throw
Yeah.
it away out back. If you go out back, we like dinosaurs, giant things are growing. So I talked them into let me go and pick them because llama pellets are their llama manure are pellets.
Yeah. Same with alpaca. And alpaca
Right.
actually would go to the bathroom in one specific spot.
And they're
And
llamas.
that's, yeah.
So what I would do is I would get those white buckets or 5-gallon white buckets, dig a hole, bury them, and if I'm lucky enough, the llama once they start in one place, they'll keep doing it in that same place. So a lot of times, what I would do is I would take the manure and dump them in there, so they go, oh, this is a good spot. Then I'd lift it up and just take it. And one of the journeys that you go through to have a really cool organic garden is your journey to how you're going to get a hold of all these different types of animal manures that you're going to be looking for. And trust me, the llamas and alpacas and rabbit too, because they have these little pellets. Little pellets are so easy to work with because their biology.
It's a cold manure. It's not a hot manure.
Exactly right. It's the biology is in there too. You can take one of those little pellets, put them in a drop of in a glass of water, and watch what happens. Especially if you have a microscope, the biology will come out in that water, and you learn how to use that. And so when you're making when you're growing stuff, you want the pelletizer time release. You actually sprinkle when you're doing your garden. You sprinkle them into the garden and turn them over. It takes a long time for them to break down. Yeah, the commercial. You always have to be careful when you're getting animal manure from commercial places because they will spray it with chemicals, with malathion or wherever it is. So that's why you have to. That's one of the things you have to ask. You have to get to know the farmers. I saw. Many times I would drive up to a place and I see the animals and I would talk to them. The cow says, "Hey, I'm doing really good here. Everything's fine. I'm healthy." But the manure, they would spray them. And I said, "Well, okay, so I'm going to have an organic garden. Is there anything I should know? Are you injecting the cows? What are you doing?" "Well, everything's fine. We should spray a little malathion on the manure." I go, "Well, okay, well." And so ideally, I gave up. But what I started telling people is, look, there's a way you can do the. You really just want to control the flies, right? You don't necessarily want to be spraying the malathion. You really want to, and it's beyond me why you don't use your own manure for your property because you should be recycling these animals right back into your property and everything will be growing beautiful, but you're throwing it away. That's what they do. They just bring a big giant hauler and haul the stuff away. But so I would teach a few of them what they can do to because if they did it right, and then they can actually sell it to people who do organic gardening because they would buy it. I would buy it, and the llama I would bring them bags and they would bag it up, and I would sell. I would put that. I call it Malibu Gold as a picture of a llama on it. And what I would do is I would get a presser and compress them into a block.
Right.
You guys know what I'm talking about. This will compress it into a block. So the one of the keys to growing your own food is you want to go on this journey of go beyond the seeds, because the seeds are important. I have a seed bank, and it's really interesting because I have the seed bank for maybe 50 years now, maybe 60 years. I kind of seem to remember always having a seed bank, even when I was youngin.
You're
But
still a youngin', Andy.
yeah. And so I have tons of ridiculous seeds in there and I'm not talking, what seeds? I'm talking about vegetable seeds. I'm talking about things like black garlic. I have these black garlic seeds, which is totally ridiculous. I'm going to start growing them again. But I have all kinds of seeds from around the world. Heirloom. These are heirloom seeds. That's one of the things you want to do. You want to grow heirloom seeds. You don't want to go to the store and buy these chemically coated seeds, and these are very weak. There's a chemical in there that sterilizes everything. As soon as you stick them in the ground, that poor plant is going to be going, I need my cocaine. I need my cocaine now. And I need my spray. I need my pesticide. What's wrong with you people? It's like, right? And so that's very important. Genetics is very important. And there are lots of really cool places now that you can literally get seeds from around the world. I have seeds from China, Japan, all different parts of the world, because it's not illegal to be shipping these seeds anywhere you want to. There are lots of places you can get them from. There's the whole seed catalog. You remember the whole Earth catalog? Well, the whole seed catalog makes a variety of different beautiful types of seeds. So you want to key into that. But then you want to key into the trace minerals. The easiest way to do the trace minerals is to do the worm farm and the compost. That's two different things. If you want to get really, really good at making compost, and the reason why you're making the compost is you want to have a microbially rich, minerally rich compost.
Yeah,
that's what you want. You want to be able to take a little piece of that little compost and tie it into a little tea bag, whatever way you want to do it, and get maybe 15 gallons of clean distilled water. Let it sit there and bubble it for maybe a half hour or two, and then spray it in your environment. You'd be surprised at just doing that, because the microbes in there, you aerate them, they're happy. And I also too I've learned that Granny Smith's molasses. Tablespoon of Granny Smith's molasses into this mixture will make it go.
Food source, man. You're giving them the juice. You're giving them that cocaine again.
You know what I'm saying? And you can take that and you can spray that onto the soil and onto the leaves, and you can spray your vegetables that way too. It won't hurt you at all if you decide to eat it. A lot of times when I'm spraying customers' places, I take a leaf of something, I eat it. She says, "Oh my God, you're eating it." I says, "Yeah, it won't bother me at all. It won't hurt me at all." So I do the vegetable, but so you want to get really good at helping the microbes do their thing.
Yeah, no, we got a question: is that sulfured or unsulfured molasses?
Oh, well, okay. So it depends on the purpose what you're using for it. Because if you're making a mixture that you want to control a fungal disease, because one of the mixtures for controlling a fungus disease, a fungus among us, is you want to make this molasses microbial mixture with the trace minerals. I would use a C90 with it because it's so easy to get 90 of it. But I also have 14 different kinds of rock dust, so it's a blend of trace minerals in there. You want to learn how to make your own blend of really cool trace minerals that you feed to the really cool microbes that you make. The worm farm is just one type of microbe. You still have to get I have about 10 different sources of microbes that I get, which reminds me I have to call Layden up because I like his product. His has a very unique. Layden's stuff comes from, where is it from? Connecticut or somewhere over there in the
Fish Brew. Yeah,
where he's at, right? Right, which is another part of the United States. So we're bringing the biology over there to here, which is really cool because that's what's happening. The biology, it's like, I don't know about your place, but here in California, it's shot. It's really shot. There's hardly anything going on here locally. So you have to be bringing the biology in. You have to figure out ways to help it survive here.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just soil. It's not the soil biology that Layton and Fish Brew is giving you. It's the out of the sea, out of the fish, and that biology is necessary on the soil. We're supposed to be getting it, but it hasn't been on our soils for a long time. That's why, that biology is so important to bring back into our soil structures.
That's exactly it. Because you and see, I as a gardener and learning to work with the soil and learn to grow things, I like the word organic because the way organic means to me is this is how you learn. You do things and it's an organic thing you learn. It's just you
Yeah.
do it and you don't even know what the fuck you're doing, but you're doing everything right. Everything's working out really cool. And I've learned that these biologies, if I was to bring something and it makes everything grow, even if it's just a short period of time, you go, did you see that? Anybody see that? Because that's the plants and everything going, hey, we like that. Can we get more?
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it has to be a blend. So every time I think I find something, I realize it's really a blend of all these other
Mm-hmm.
things that really, really makes it work. And so when you're doing your growing, when you're learning to grow things, first you want to never grow in a straight line. You really don't want to do it. Mother Nature doesn't do that. Mother Nature doesn't have peas in a straight line. Mother
Nope.
Nature has it all spread out. And also a blend. There's other things growing in there with it. A lot of times when I do a
Mm-hmm.
garden for people and they say your your rabbits and other things are coming and eat, it's another story why you have the rabbits in the first place. But it's real easy for pests to go right through your garden and pick what they want to eat. But if you have it blended with other things, because there's also a benefit of growing with garlic, for example. Certain plants you can grow in your garden that will stop other animals from coming and eating. You just have to learn if you decide if you can handle that particular type of flavor that it enhances to them. Elephant garlic, for example, has a particular type of flavor that can be passed on to other plants. And normally people don't mind that if they like that, but the bugs do.
Yeah. So I don't think we actually finished Ghetto Hippie's question. Or you said that there's a difference. You use both sulfur and unsulfur depending on
Right.
the
So
application.
you use the sulfur if you're planning on using it for a disease. You don't need the sulfur if you're using it as a microbial feed. But you could you could use it. It just depends on a variety of things. But even then, the sulfur is actually very good for the microbes to break down as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, they need those chemical compounds as well, right? Because we're
right,
taking it
sulfur,
down
right.
to the molecular level, guys, when
So
the
I would say
biology breaks
use
down.
definitely use the sulfur one because the added benefit of having sulfur because it's very important mineral
Mm-hmm.
that's needed to use. So if you ever can get sulfur, you just have to learn how it's made because you have to be careful. I'm sure the chemical sulfur products are no good
Yeah.
and
And
natural.
then there's also this to consider. Don't be a moron. Remember to maintain the balance.
And the balance basically for me means there's just not one thing going on there. There's a whole bunch of the thing, and they're all balanced together. It's all in a harmonious balance going on there, and that's what makes it really cool. Everybody, like a billion trillion things, all doing something, and
Yeah. Yeah.
right, they're all dancing. So that's the important. So far, I was saying that you of course have to work on the structure of the soil. You don't want to be disturbing the soil all the time. You want to get it growing. Initially, that's when you dig a hole, you plant. After that, you don't disturb it. You leave it growing. You want it to go. Over the years, that soil structure will change. It will allow for the microbes to be in there, allow for the earthworms to be in there, things to be happening. You need that structure going. You also have to remember that you have to be constantly supplying microbes and minerals, a blend of
Mm-hmm.
microbes, a blend of minerals on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Even if you have a property filter that filters up the water, okay, so you're a little step closer. There's still just the air is toxic. Just right. The acid rain is toxic. There's so many different toxics, and then of course there's no line solid wall between your place and the toxic place next door.
Yeah.
So that's constantly creeping on you on all sides. It depends on what's going on around you.
Or
That's why
the airplanes flying overhead. I know one grow that was set up beside an airport. they actually could never pass a chemical test, and it was just because of all of the fuel from the airplanes in the air getting sucked into their ventilation system. They couldn't pass a heavy metals test.
That's exactly right. And so, so ideally, you want to have like a community of people band together, so that your neighbor's organic too. At least you have a little wider area that you
Yeah.
can, that you can at least. But it's always a guy across the street that's going to be spraying something. And the way it works, a lot of times you have I remember in Miami they were spraying malathion over people's property, even though they were organic, and the farmers too. There was a big battle about, hey, I'm an organic farmer. What are you doing spraying malathion over my plane? Well, we have a right to spray this whole area here. I'm going, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and so the bottom line is this constant damage being done to the local ecosystem.
Hey, medically fit. I got to get you on talking about oh geez, the electrical system in plants. Oh, it's slipping out of my brain right now. But you know what I'm talking about, medically fit. So reach out to me on DM me on Instagram, brother.
Humic acid for people as also does the same thing too.
Yeah.
So
and we actually have a discount code for humic acid for people through Quad Ag. It's actually the ironclad. If you go to the website, it's all about the biology.ca. I actually posted all the different discount codes on there with an image of what everything is, so you guys can find out. But sorry, Andy, go ahead.
No, I was just I have to go to that site myself and take a look.
Yeah,
because I know that you want to do the humate thing. You're very for humans as well. It's very interesting. Things you want to do for your garden, you really should be doing for your own quote garden.
Yeah. So Lily was saying, does Andy have his chat on? Are you seeing the chat, Andy, or?
Yes, I'm seeing the chat. I do have a problem in that in order for me to see the chat, I have to do the look, there are words on that. Wow.
Oh, yes, you actually have to put your glasses on to see it.
Yeah. Hi. So yes, Earth's grounding. Now I can see it because I didn't have these glasses on. So I have about 30 different glasses when I had my eyes done. Glasses for everything. Andy have his chat on.
Okay, and Lily wants you to read this.
Okay.
So that you understand what terroir actually means. Since it's a French thing and she's part French, so she's got to get it in there, So terroir is a French term used to describe the environmental factors that affect a crop's phenotype, including unique environment context, farming practices, and a crop's specific growth habits.
And that's cool in the sense that every place has their own unique environmental thing going on. And so that's one of the things you want to learn. What is going on? What is my terroir here?
Yeah.
What is it? What is it that I can just utilize in this little space that I have here to make that a more solid environment for what I need to grow? That's what I'm going to do. Where I'm moving to now, I'm going to set up the space, and that's the space I'm going to convert into like my own little terroir.
Yeah.
See, right?
Your piece of heaven on earth, brother.
Then that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to be planting some fruit trees, planting more roots in the ground. The Pharmacy Seed Network. Is that a place you can get seeds? That I'm sure there's lots of really cool places to get seeds nowadays too, and that's important too. There's a network. There are lots of places. You have to start getting the seeds, and then one of the things you always want to do is you want to grow the next generation from the same plants that you grew there. So you always want to let one part of your plant, if you go 5 lettuce, one of those lettuce you let it go to seed. And then you start growing those. and you keep doing the process, you'd be surprised how the environment will change the seeds in very short time.
Yeah.
Right. So like here in Malibu, it's foggy, and so
Hmm.
people, a lot of plants have a problem with mildew and stuff like that.
Yeah, the
But
powdery
if you,
mildew.
but if you can start growing the plants here, they'll genetically get used to the environment. And the only reason why the plants have the powdery mildew is not so much the fog, it's the pH of the soil.
Yeah.
You'll find that if you have the key into the pH of the soil, and I actually wrote down. Let's see, I may have it over here. I don't know if I did it or not. Darn, I wrote down what pH means. It's a photon exchange of hydrogen. I think it is. Has something to do with hydrogen. How the
Hmm.
hydrogen is a, and the pH basically means how effective it is in transferring energy. For me, energy, minerals and stuff like that between the plants and the minerals. And also, but more important, the pH tells me there's a certain pH level that the microbes live in,
Right. Yeah.
and that's the pH level you really have to key into, because then you want the most microbes in that range to be active for you. Because if you go too high the pH or too low the pH, you have less and less microbes. And no matter what you do in terms of providing minerals to the soil, the microbes are not there to make it work. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things people have to understand. Like over here, we have a pH of 7.2, 7.4.
Yeah.
That is way too high,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And it
Definitely.
should be 6.8. 6.8 is where you have the most abundance of the microbes.
And depending on the type of plant, some plants can't live in the higher pH and some plants have no problem with it. That goes back into the history of it all. Um, but one of the things I think I would like to point out is the seeds that are coming from those plants that are farmed, excuse me, with chemical inputs don't have the biology in the seed itself that they really should. And that's why we're getting a lot of these weak seeds out there because the biology isn't there in the seed. The mother plant never had the biology to put into her seed. So we're not getting it in the next generation either.
Right. That's why you want to try to once you grow in your own environment and you know that you are have a good environment, the biology will start to work. And then once the biology works, the next generation of seeds will also have the same biology going for them. By the way, what is a neonicotinoid?
Neonicotinoids. That's the chemicals they're using on the seeds to coat them. Is Lily can get the actual description of it, but it's not very good for us or the plants.
It sounds like it has something to do with the same thing that nicotine does. And that's why it's called that. It's some derivative of it, or something that was made from that particular type of plant.
Wouldn't
Nicotine,
surprise me at all.
nic,
It's like a fungicide or something like that that they're putting on the seeds. But don't quote me on that one.
right. So it looks to me like it's a nicotine type of product,
Yeah.
and the nicotine is very 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 bad, very very bad.
Hmm.
I would not even use it. I would not touch it. I would wear gloves. I mean, I would not use it at all in my environment because it'll stick around. It'll stick around your environment. Next thing you know, it's going to end up in your liver and your kidney. Trust me, it
Yeah.
will. Or the animals as well. 6.4 is really cool.
Yeah.
If you can keep it, get it down to 6.4.
And I like what the Pharmacy Seeds Network is saying here. No, not only do they not have the biology, many of them also lack the actual trace mineral nutrition from a seed or for a seed to sustain itself long enough to establish itself. And that's one of the big problems.
And that's the basis of that too is also I follow to the extent that when I go to a customer's place, they don't have the biology or the minerals to survive very long. So you have to give them the biology and the mineral. You have to provide that. That's what I
Yeah.
do with my services. I make a liquid So I'm constantly spraying the biology and spraying the minerals on a regular basis. And then try to work out with the customers or the people or whoever it is to start making physically an environment, right? A terroir that allows the biology to survive. Because what's the point of
Yep.
doing that if you're not changing the terrain, the terroir, right? For
Yep.
the biology to grow. And
Yep.
that's the key right there too. I mean, I actually think that's the most important thing that we can pass on to anybody is you get that terroir going, baby, and you'll be surprised how fast everything will start to work. And you'll have really abundant food source on a regular basis all the time. Maybe even do a greenhouse. So you don't
Yep.
need. Let's see. You don't need. You can put the pharmacy seeds up. I like that. I like him. He's cool. Let's see what he says.
This one here, you
Yeah.
don't need pesticides at all. Get trace minerals. Let's see here, nutrition and biology right, and let plants use their own immune
Yeah.
systems. See the plant health pyramid. Exactly, and that's why the two components are so important. And I can get all the trace minerals into the soil, but if I don't have that biology, it doesn't really matter anymore.
It's not what you eat; it's what you absorb.
Yeah.
And so that's why. But the bottom line to me is that if you when you have this terroir and you have this your seeds, you have a good source, heirloom seeds have been genetically grown right, and you're growing them, you're gonna find that they're not gonna have pests or diseases at all. It may a pest may stumble upon these plants and go, okay, I nibbled and I do not like it. Bye, 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 bye. Or even a disease, because the conditions that these pests and diseases need are not there. Right? See,
Yeah.
and that's a lot easier than to try to reverse something that's already happening and try and make it healthier.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If we
It's a lot
start with
harder.
health in the first place, we're good.
Right. Right. It's really harder when somebody calls me up and I go to plants. Well, this plant is dying of trace mineral deficiency. It's you're lucky that it's on some kind of emergency feeding. What do you call it when they're barely surviving? The plant's barely there, and,
Yeah.
and it's impossible to even if I foliar spray with the biology and the microbes and the trace minerals, that poor plant cannot even hardly absorb it anymore, let alone put it to work.
Yeah.
But it is
Lucas, cool, brother. Your first char burn. Are you using a tea lead or are you using some other method to make your biochar? Just question. So somebody was mentioning John Kemp. I'm not sure where our conversation was that we would have been on there, but then Lily had made the neonicotinoids is a relatively new class of pesticides that are increasingly being shown to have a negative impact on our ecosystem
very bad.
and in particular on pollinators. And
That's
one of the
exactly
reasons I'm reading these out, guys, is we actually do take the streams and put them onto podcast software. So you can find us on Google, iTunes, Spotify, places like that on a lot of the episodes as well. Just
Yeah,
to let you know.
nicotoids are a nicotine derivative. It's like we're going to do all this tobacco, all this nicotine. Yeah, it's a very bad. It kills the nervous system of any creature, including insects, people, animals, mammals, you name it. It gets in the environment. Nicotine is one of the worst permissive substances on the planet. That's why smoking cigarettes. That's why when you smoke cigarettes, you have 5 smoke cigarettes. There's a whole list of how
Yeah.
you never get away from this stuff. So yeah, it's bad for birds, bad for bees, for flowers, the trees, the earthworms. Everything dies. Everything dies. So
Yeah.
it's very, very bad.
Yeah, you don't want everything to die, Andy. I don't want to
No.
die particularly that way either.
So I've heard of John Kemp too. I didn't know if he still doing his thing either. But
Yeah.
so we covered some of the basics. The other ideal too thing is you don't really want to. I remember you were talking about trying to grow something that doesn't really grow in that environment because it's too cold. So you can't always grow things that the environment is not going to let them grow. So you always want to try grow something for your particular environment that you're at. That's a good idea. But you can always grow indoors too. Nowadays, more people are growing more things indoors. You can have a
Yeah,
really cool vegetable garden indoors if the outside turns out to be really, really bad in terms of growing out, in your environment. So then you can grow anything indoors because you duplicate the environment that those vegetables and plants would normally grow. I think
yeah.
that's a really cool, really make more and more people are going to be doing that because it's an environment outside is getting to be where it's impossible to grow any good food.
And John is ever moving forward. I'm in the Regen Academy there. So Mr. Kemp is still moving forward. Actually, in the guys from Grassroots Pots that we had on, and there's a 10% discount for Grassroots Pots. He was talking about some of the experiments that they're working with John on as well. So yeah, he's still very active.
Cool, cool. I've known about him for like a billion years.
Oh, what? You're a billion years old too. So you guys are brothers of a billion years. There you go.
So let's see. I covered basically everything pretty much, but I think
Mhm.
another thing too is that everybody here that grows their own vegetables, foods, or whatever, you can't just come back in a month to see what's going on. It has to be like you
Yeah,
really need to do it every day. You need to be out there taking care of them because they depend on you for all kinds of things. If you
yeah.
ignore them, if you ignore them, Mother Nature will say, okay, he's not interested anymore. You can come back and you find that they'll take over. A billion years, yeah, that's actually very young, man. That's a billion
Yeah,
years is really nothing.
yeah.
Grassroots, yeah, man.
Have you
Okay.
ran into the Grassroots fabric pots, Andy?
No, I haven't run into them over here yet.
Well, actually, I think they're from California. So, but yeah, they're very, very, um, how would I say, well built
Ah,
fabric pots. They can get customs. They do up 200, 400, 600 gallons. They do, beds, raised beds, etc. But
is that the
very
name
high
of it?
quality
Grassroots?
material.
Is that the name of it? Grassroots?
Grassroots fabric pots.
Oh, cool. I'll take it
If you
out.
go to my website, Andy, or in the description, the link is there, and you can actually get 10% off
Great.
if you use Live Show 10, I think it is.
Cool. Great. I may just have to go talk to him about being an affiliate myself. No, that really, it really, because those plastic black pots is awful. That's one of the
Yeah.
things I do not like to grow. That's not, yeah. Other than that, you have to buy these giant clay things. It's impossible to move, and they're not very recyclable either. But these things,
Yeah.
they sound interesting. I'll see how long they last. Right? Maybe they just
Well,
decompose.
people have been using the grassroots pots for, I think the longest is 12 or 15 years. They use a military grade canvas, and then they started putting, like John Kemp was putting, wrapping cellophane around his fabric pots to hold the moisture in. So they started putting a special plastic inside, so that you weren't getting hydrophobic on the edges, which is great for certain areas, especially in your area where you get the Santa Ana winds, etc., that dry things out. The plastic in there actually helps to retain the moisture content in the soil, so you're not having to water as much.
That's fine as long as they use biodegradable plastic.
You'd actually have to ask. I don't know that I ever asked if it was biodegradable plastic. I know they're very into regenerative, so I would assume that it is something along those lines.
Right, it would defeat the purpose otherwise to be using more plastic on it. So, but if
Yeah,
it's the only thing about the biodegradable ones, it will fall apart a lot faster. But maybe
yeah.
nowadays they can make something really good. If you can make a really nice pot, you could also make a nice biodegradable liner
Well,
for it.
maybe it is Steve Cantwell, guys. So maybe I am mistaken with being John Kemp. Yeah, it's Steve Cantwell. Right. Sorry. I make mistakes too.
Well, guys, so I think we have a few minutes left. Any questions or anything? Oh dear. Okay, so take a look at my website, guys, invisiblegardener.com. The newsletter is coming out really soon. Uh, I'm working.
Cool.
I'm working on doing some really cool online classes going on, and of course, I'm always here to help you out. You can always send me a question. I'll be happy to answer it here on the air for you. That's one of my favorite things to do is have it teach people answer their questions. And I have a hard time looking at you guys and reading, and I don't even want to look over there because then I have to start typing. And when I start typing, and I'm not here, and so I'm not sure how to do the comment thing because it's just I can't split my. I hire somebody to answer the comment for. That's what I'll do. I just hire somebody to.
Yeah, and she wants it in writing that I make mistakes and ain't gonna happen, baby. But you do have it on video. But I'm not gonna sign it. Okay, sorry.
So the next week's class, but next week's show is going to be on, believe it or not, flea-free living, organic strategies for flea control. So I don't know if
Okay,
any of you,
cool.
I don't know if any of you have a pet or anything, but that'll be very cool because you really don't want to be using chemicals for your pets.
Okay, you want to know if I have a pet? Well, here, how about this one here? One pussy cat, and then let me grab a dog here. Yeah, I don't have any pets in my house, Andy. Not at all.
Not at all, not at all.
And then
And
of
then,
course there's the other dog. So that's a good one for flea control. Although we don't really suffer from fleas on our
I bet.
pets up here. Don't think I've ever had fleas up here.
I think it's because it's cold enough, the environment is harsh enough that maybe they
Yeah,
just don't survive too well outside. Over here, it's an entirely different thing. Just recently, a whole bunch of family raccoons walked by.
yeah, yeah.
There's several hundred homeless cats right out here outside. So this fleas almost year round if you're not careful. And people are there's a really very a couple simple ways that we can introduce you to that you can use to control fleas without killing you out using pesticides, chemicals, all those things. Is very very. I've had 5 or 6, maybe 7 cats now in a row, so I learned how to control fleas and stuff. By the way, next one after that, we're going to call unearthing the soil secrets, exploring the power of the soil.
Cool, cool. I think we're gonna have some amazing shows, and I know that you are working on bringing some more people on to get
Yeah,
some more voices on, Andy. And I'm just patiently waiting for. But you're moving to your new place here next week, where you've got a
as we
lot
move,
more area to
as we
grow.
speak. Right, as we speak. Right now, there's boxes everywhere,
Yep.
things are everywhere. My cat is in here somewhere. I hear her meowing on it. I don't know where she's at. And so I'm doing boxes in the garage, boxes in every room. So it's exciting. This is the fourth time I moved in 2 years. So
Mm.
I don't really like doing that. So the new place I'm at, I'm going to have a special room for the studio so I can do the podcast in there, do my music, my artwork. I like to someday show it to you guys, but hey, we can stay. I'm going to have a separate show. By the way, the Cosmic Spaceship has whole new artwork. And that's the place where you can also look at not only listen to my music, but also look at my artwork because I do the artwork as the background for the music. It's called Cosmic.
And guys, that's on his YouTube channel on the what's it called? The oh geez. I'm having a real brain fart tonight.
You talk about my channel?
Yeah, that the Cosmic Spaceship is on your YouTube channel
Yeah. And
in one
don't
of the headings.
organic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess anything else we want to do? We're cutting it out a little shorter today.
Well, we got 1 minute left, but yeah, we can cut it now, my brother, because I think you're getting a phone call. You got to return. So tomorrow night we got Luna back on as well with Josh from BioAg coming on with her. So other than that, I'll have a new R&D Grow show on either Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll just have to see how things work out. But other than that, Andy, Love you, brother. And everybody, have a great night, and we'll catch you very soon. That.
Take care
See
now.
you.
Bye.